Alright, peace and greetings, YouTubers. So, welcome to another edition of In the News. Happy New Year, all that great stuff. I know I was gone for a little period of time, but you know what? Listen, my mother flew into town. When my mama comes to town, she gets all my attention. That's my last living parent, and I only get to see her 2 or 3 times a year. So, when my mama is here, it is the Me and My Mama show, and everything else takes a backseat. Anyway, so H&M, let's jump right into it. Now, if you're unaware, H&M has been caught up in a firestorm of controversy, mainly because they run an advertisement that a lot of people feel is very racist, or at least racially insensitive. And so to sum things up, there's been an advertisement that caught traction, and in this advertisement, there's a young black boy. He has on his green hoodie, and the green hoodie says something like, "Coolest monkey in the jungle." And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time explaining why just that piece in itself is racist and why people are outraged at that, because at this point, if you don't understand why people are outraged, it's because you're choosing to be naive. Or you've basically chosen to, turn a blind eye to the realities of what is. When you talk about the idea of race in the United States and the imaging that was always placed on black individuals, especially black men during the time period of the 1800s and the 1900s, one of the things that they loved to do was paint black men and black people in general, but specifically black men, as feral, as primitive, as beastly, barbaric. They were inhumane. They weren't able to be tamed. They weren't able to, do things that made logical sense. And so you had to be very careful around them. And it was okay to be aggressive with them or, by any means necessary. If you had to kill one of them, it was okay because, they're just not quite normal. So you had films like Birth of a Nation that painted us out to be these monsters that went and attacked and raped and ate and tried to kill all the white women and stuff like that. And so that whole idea of the primitive black male has always been an image that has been placed in American media and in just pretty much the overall experience of Americans in general for the longest. This is something that's just now being seen, ripped, and cut out of the picture. And so for a lot of people, it was very, very, insulting to see something like that. And a lot of people may not have even known. It was like, oh, it's not even that big of a deal. It's just, because, there's another kid who has a hoodie on that says something like Survivor of the Jungle or some crap like that. And the thing is this. Like, going back to my point about the whole primitive thing, like, when you think of the amount of black men and women who have been killed or, falsely imprisoned or falsely accused of rape and different things like that, those same images play a role in that because it helps to pretty much desensitize the atrocities that happen to black people, because people start to look at those images and say, yeah, well, black people are kind of like that. And when you tie the whole idea of Darwinism, and I talked about this in my video where I talked about standardized testing like a few months ago, how even with Darwinism, how they try to brand the whole thing about, people evolved from monkeys. But then there was theories where people were like, yeah, people evolved from monkeys, but, black people didn't evolve all the way. They weren't finished evolving. And that's why they're so primitive, and that's why they're violent, and they're lazy, and they're this and they're that. And so even though it's a picture, and this is just a kid in a hoodie wearing, coolest kid in the jungle, and people think because it said coolest, monkey or coolest anything, that kind of took away the negative connotation from the phrase monkey. It really doesn't, because it still opens those same wounds. And so that's why a lot of people feel that it's racist. But this is the issue I have. The issue I have is this. That advertisement had to have gone through at least 10 different sets of hands. It was seen by at least 10 different pairs of eyes. And for nobody to still say anything was wrong with this and maybe we shouldn't run this or we should go back to the drawing board, or hell, maybe we should switch the black kid from the monkey shirt and give him the other one and put a white kid in it, since white people have never been called monkeys before. Maybe that might make a little bit more sense. Why don't we, let's figure out something. Or hell, maybe we don't even have to have a kid in the shirt. Can we just have the hoodie and have it in the backdrop? And so my thing is this. So many people had to have seen that. And for nobody to say anything, it makes me question, what's the diversity looking like in the boardroom? Because when you think about it, it's like you have this kid, he's doing the shoot. Think of all the people who had to see this. You have the agent there who probably booked the kid so he could get to shoot. You have the cameraman who was there. The parents, they probably had the parents sitting in the green room watching Judge Judy eating snacks and stuff, because sometimes they don't like the parents in the shoot because the parents be distracting the kids and everything like that. And then when the pictures are, and then the person who's coaching the kid while they're taking the pictures. Then after they do the pictures, the person who's going to go and look at all of the different shots that were taken, because of course that wasn't the only shot. I'm sure that kid had to do that same pose 30, 40 times. And then so there's probably a team of 1 or 2 people that are looking through these 30 or 40 different shots of the black kid in the monkey hoodie, and they're trying to pick which one is the best, and then they finally pick, the one that they want to use, and they send it to the next level. Now this is a boardroom of like 5 or 6 people. And in addition to the black kid in the hoodie, there's probably 15 other kids with different hoodies and stuff and different outfits that they're wearing. And this board is trying to figure out which 5 or 6 they're going to put in the spread. And so after they all went through and everybody's looked around, oh, I like this one, this one. Oh, I like the one with the green hoodie. It fits his energy or some crap like that. And then, it goes to the next place. And now it's going to the marketing team. And now the marketing team is going to take that image and they need to go ahead and add some things. So they're going to add the price tag of the sweatshirt and the name of the sweatshirt and then this and that. And then the next person who's putting together the website is going to figure out what page on it. So it's like all these different people saw this and nobody said anything. And I'm only saying this based on my experience from working at a magazine, because just because you write or publish something does not mean it automatically goes straight to distribution just because you wrote it. Like, it usually goes through a few other people before it gets to that final, stage where other people, like the masses and people like you and I, get to see it. So I'm sitting here looking like, clearly somebody had to have seen something. So I'm like, what does the diversity look like in your boardroom? And here's the thing about diversity. Diversity does not just mean you have somebody of a different gender or a different race in the office. Diversity also means that when you have that person from a different gender or a different race, that most likely their viewpoints and perspectives and ideologies mirror the collective ideologies and viewpoints and perspectives of the population that they come from or the population that they represent. If they don't do that, then pretty much they're just a mouthpiece for your own viewpoint already. Okay? It's kind of like Clarence Thomas in the Supreme Court. Okay? He's a black man, but when you look at a lot of the things that he's placed judgment on and a lot of the decisions that he's made, they're very anti-black. They're not a lot of decisions that help for the progression of black people in America. It's more so things that kind of continue to set us back, more so. And so Clarence Thomas being on the Supreme Court is not something that we say, oh, diversity in the Supreme Court. Probably not. So like I said, that's a hot mess, H&M. And the thing about it, too, that poor kid, he looked pissed off in that picture, too. He looked mad. Like, he looked pissed off like a kid who just found out, like, he just sat through a 3-hour church service and his mom was in the choir and they got 2 more church services to go to and he thought he was going to get to go home, and mom was like, no, we'll be home at like 9 o'clock tonight. So he spent his whole day in church. Like, that's the kind of pissed off he looked like, okay? It was kind of like, your mama bought you some Payless shoes and you went to school and you got cooked at school all day. And then you still had to wear the same shoes the next day, so you know that you're going back to get cooked some more. Like, that's the kind of face he had. But I'm glad that other celebrities reached out and kind of, like, from what I understand, Diddy offered like a $1 million modeling contract to the kid, which is really cool. I saw like LeBron James and some other people, they photoshopped the picture to kind of make it more empowering. They got rid of the monkey thing, and it was like coolest kid and stuff like that. So that's nice. But yeah, H&M, y'all need to figure out who y'all got, who's at the boardroom table. Let me speak to the manager. If y'all need help, give me a call. Like, what y'all doing? Anyway, moving on. Oprah. A lot of people think Oprah is going to run for president now. She gave that really exciting speech at the Golden Globes that a lot of people were talking about. And so now everybody wants her to run for president. And, I think they were saying, she's hinted at it. My thing is this, I don't think Oprah wants to be president. Like, here's my thing. Oprah is, like, happy. She's at a good place in life. She has her network. She already had the TV show. She's super, super rich. She's at peace. She has the dog. She has her garden. And in the garden, she's growing cucumbers and she's growing water. I don't even think, you can't grow water, but it's Oprah, so she'll figure out how to do it. Like, she's at a happy place. Why would you mess that up and stress yourself out by trying to be the president of this country? That's a lot of stress, okay? Like, I just think, like, when you're a happy person, you can do more for people when you do things that are in your element. Something like being the president of this country is not something that's very glamorous. It's a very ugly environment to be in. You know what I mean? And on top of that, can we be honest? Okay, and because I saw a whole bunch of, women were going to do it this time. I'm like, listen, white women, y'all couldn't even vote a white woman in. So I know y'all ain't voting in a black woman. Just forget it. Absolutely not. And so let's not even get our hopes up with that. Plus, the thing is, Oprah and a lot of people, we like them because of what they do, and they're charitable, they do these great things. But then when you put them in these positions where they start to do things that impact and affect your life, then you start to not like them as much, because then you start to notice that some of the decisions that they're going to make are going to be hard, and they're going to be decisions that don't always work in your favor, and then these people become your public enemy number one. Okay, so I think Oprah does a better service to the world by being Oprah and continuing to, have her schools and do her charitable work and continue to inspire and influence others. But I wouldn't want to see her be president. I mean, hell, I wouldn't mind her being president. That would be cool. But for her, I don't think that's something she wants to do. It doesn't seem like a happy thing to be. Look how miserable Trump is. All right, he talked all that shit. And he hates that job every day. If Trump could quit today, he would. But he will never quit because he doesn't want everybody saying "we told you so" because he likes to be right. Okay. And then being president, it ages you and everything, and you be all old and broke up afterwards. Leave Oprah alone. Let Oprah be happy. Lord, my voice is going out. That's the ancestors telling me I'm talking too much. What else was I going to talk about? Then I saw this on, I think it was the Shade Room, some crap like that. But ideas of possibly doing a Friday reboot with, Ice Cube's son and that DC Young Fly guy. Listen, we're good on reboots. Friday doesn't need to be remade. Just leave Friday alone. It's a cult classic. And Friday is so good to the point where it's still entertaining and funny to this current generation who, weren't even around when this movie came out. Like, Friday is like 20 plus years old, and it still carries well into 2018. So we don't need to reboot it. Just leave it alone. Some things don't need a reboot. You want to reboot something, you got to reboot something people didn't care about the first time, and then you do it better than the original. You know what I mean? Or, and I think something like Friday, the reason why Friday worked so well at the time that it came out, you have to think, this was a time period where there were a ton of movies that pretty much showed the narratives of life living in the hood. Okay, so you had Menace to Society, and you had South Central, and Boys in the Hood, and all these different movies like that. Friday was a movie that, still carried in that same lane, but Friday was a movie that humanized each and every character, and it was from a comedic standpoint. And so even the drug dealer or the person with the gun, still you discovered that they were a person, and it made it, relatable and hilarious at the same time. And it just made it where people understood that life in certain neighborhoods is not always just death and guns and blood and drugs and death. People are human. People have friends. People have a sense of humor. People, there's culture, there's music, there's hip-hop, there's all these different things. And I think that's why Friday was such a great film. Next Friday was cool. I could have done without Friday After Next. But we don't need a reboot. Like, that lane that Friday has created for itself is still there for Friday as a film to just continue to entertain with. So I don't think we need to reboot Friday. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to reboot a movie, I don't know. Hell, you can reboot, actually, this is what y'all can do. Okay, the Jackson 5 American Dream was like my favorite miniseries on TV. But it stops after the Victory Tour in '84. So why don't y'all go ahead and bring that back and give me everything that happened after the Victory Tour up until like 2016. That'd be a good movie, okay? Because it's like you got Michael Jackson going and doing the whole Thriller thing, and then Janet became Janet, and then LaToya went crazy for a little bit, and she was with that crazy guy and everything like that. And then Randy had said he got kidnapped in the jungle in Colombia and everything like that. And then you could add in like Michael having the kids, Paris and all them, and you could bring up the different cases and all. Like, that would be a dope movie. Bring that, something we're anticipating that hasn't been done yet, okay? Because I'm not claiming the Flex Washington movie. Anyway, how much time I got? Alright, let me wrap this up. In addition to that, somebody asked, could I start reviewing Love and Hip Hop? Absolutely not. Sorry, that's not my show. I'm not into Love and Hip Hop. I can't do it because it's too staged. I don't like watching shows where I know that it's so fake, and I can't get with it. I tried to watch Love and Hip Hop Atlanta some years ago. Wasn't my cup of tea. I did sit through this Miami episode, but I'm not going to be sitting through no more. And the issue I had with that, I was already pissed off watching it because I don't know the guy's name, but I saw the piece where he was talking to the Afro-Latina girl, and he didn't like that she had the afro, and I'm like, you know what? I'm good. Y'all go ahead and be reductive with that crap, but I can't do it. So, no, I'm not freaking getting into Love and Hip Hop. But I do feel some kind of way about, oh boy, I forgot his name, but my thing is this. If you're going to build an image and a career off something that has been created by black people, you can't be anti-black at the same time. And by him being against her having natural afro or everything like that, that's very anti-black in itself. Because the fact is that black people are criticized for just existing in their own skin, existing as they are, existing with the hair that's growing out of their head, existing with the shade of brown that they are. That's a problem. You, as somebody who's benefiting from hip-hop culture, because I forgot what he is. I know he's in the Latino community, but hell, he ain't black. And so my thing is this. If you're going to use pretty much something that was created, and I understand hip-hop created in the Bronx by Puerto Ricans and black people, I got it. However, overall, hip-hop culture and everything like that is very, very black to me. And so you can't be anti-black to somebody and tell them that they can't be themselves. And, I think you should change your image to fit this mold. It's just very contradicting. Like, what you doing? So, no, I'm not watching no damn Love and Hip-Hop. And then I'll tell you what I have been watching. I don't know if y'all seen this show. It just came on tonight. Undercover High. Yo, that entertainment in itself. It's this show where like people who are a few years younger than me, like people who were like 23, 24, 25, they go undercover back to high school. Yo, y'all gotta check out that show. Now listen, that's something, that show has confirmed for me that high school is something I would never want to relive in 2018. Because high school in 2018 is a totally different ball game from when I was up in there. Like, yo, that is some crazy stuff. That is a good little show. So make sure y'all catch that when you can, because I'm going to talk about that in a different video. But man, that is a show there. I was like, these kids. And it's crazy because I work with kids, so I understand what's going on with like high schoolers now. So I wasn't even in shock with what I was witnessing. But it's just like, yeah, I wouldn't do well in high school if I went to high school in 2018. I'd probably have gotten about 3 or 4 fights. It just wouldn't have been good. But the last thing I did want to talk about is what was happening in Baltimore with the schools not having heat. I think that's an issue because one, it's not just happening in Baltimore. And if you were in the DMV area this past week, it was extremely cold, like 6 degrees cold, like freaking step outside and the wind hurts cold. And so it's sad that you can have kids sitting in a classroom with no heat and you expect them to learn. You know what I mean? I've already said, and this even ties with the Undercover High show. Like, I've already been saying for the longest that the entire curriculum and structure of how schools are run needs to be revamped anyway. But it's one thing to make kids sit in a room for, 7 or 8 hours uncomfortable and expect them to want to learn, and then you want them to be held to the same expectations as a nice kid who goes to, a school in Beverly Hills or in Fairfax County, Virginia. You know what I mean? Like, that's some messed up stuff. And so I saw that they have, I think it's going to be $2.5 million to get the heating and stuff fixed. And I'm like, so this means that this is an issue that's been going on for a long time, and y'all are just now addressing it because it's hit social media. That's a problem. Like, I feel so bad for different groups of kids sometimes because it sucks that based on, the zip code that you're in, or the area, the zip code that you're in, that, sometimes that determines the quality of education or the quality of life that you get. And it sucks that children have to be the collateral in that situation. That's some BS. Anyway. Somebody also asked me about the Bruno Mars and the whole conversation on appropriation. I will do that in a totally separate video because that's such a complicated conversation, because Bruno Mars, in my opinion, is in a different boat than somebody like an Iggy Azalea. And so I'll talk about that in another video, but not in this one because this one's already too long. Anyway, I'm out. Subscribe.